Chair, honourable members, this is an important as well as timely debate that we're going to have this evening. The recent tragic events in Halle, Germany, have further underlined the very real and growing threat posed by right-wing violent extremism, and in this particular case, anti-Semitism, a threat which unfortunately was already highlighted by the horrible slaughter of innocent people earlier this year in Christchurch. After both those events, I know that all our thoughts were with the family and friends of those involved. It's vital that we fully recognise this threat and work together at the EU level as well as in each of our member states to step up our efforts to urgently address this particular challenge. Let's be clear. Violent extremism is violent extremism, whatever hate-filled ideology fuels it. It has no place in our societies. Not jihadism, not far-right, nor far-left violent extremism. Racism, anti-Semitism, xenophobia, extreme nationalism are fundamentally anti-democratic and un-European. Jo Cox, a Member of Parliament in the United Kingdom, wasn't murdered by a British patriot. Her life was taken by a far-right violent extremist thug. Our European countries belong to all of us, not to those who would use their supposed patriotism as an excuse for committing cold-blooded murder. The Commission welcomes the initiative that the Presidency have taken to focus on this area. And indeed, this was reflected in a discussion in the Justice and Home Affairs Council on the 8th of October, which endorsed a set of suggestions from the Presidency. The Commission stands ready to support all Member States, the Presidency, and obviously work with this House in any way possible. While our work on countering violent extremism and terrorism at the EU level covers all forms of extremism, it's fair to say that the primary focus in recent years has been on jihadi terrorism. This needs to remain a priority given the nature of the threat. But the Commission is also increasingly focusing on and working to tackle violent right-wing extremism, especially through the Radicalisation Awareness Network that is working with police officers, prison, probation staff, local government officials, teachers and others on the front line of tackling this particular challenge. And building on this work, we think there are a number of areas where we can go further, where we need to go further. First, we agree with all those who argue that we need to do more to counter violent right-wing extremist content online. 3 years ago, we signed with the platforms an EU Code of Conduct on countering illegal hate speech online. When the code was signed in 2016, 28% of content was being removed. I'm glad to say we're now at 72% of content. But while the code's proven a very useful tool, the fight against illegal hate speech online is far from over. Unfortunately, there's no signs that the generation and circulation of such content has decreased. The Commission and the social media platforms will continue to build our cooperation within the EU Internet Forum. Indeed, a couple of weeks ago, the Forum met and this item, countering violent right-wing extremism, was at the top of the agenda. This cooperation in the Forum has produced some concrete results, something that was highlighted by the rapid response of those companies to the Halle attack. The platforms were able to remove virtually all of the 200 different variants of the video and the extremist so-called manifesto, including the soundtrack used to glorify the attack, within a couple of hours. So I very much welcome the good cooperation with the companies involved in the forum. In addition, it's important to ensure that Europol's Internet Referral Unit has sufficient resources and capacity to monitor and refer right-wing violent extremist content. And I know that this House will support that. Europol, in fact, is now working with over 350 different social media platforms. But there are still platforms today which refuse to cooperate in our efforts to take down illegal terrorist content, including violent right-wing extremist content online. For me, that's one of the reasons why it's crucial that together, as co-legislators, we need to advance swiftly in the negotiations on the proposal for a regulation countering terrorist content online. We need to get this done. We need to crack down on this poison and help save some lives. Let's put in place clear and effective measures to prevent the dissemination of illegal terrorist content, including live streaming directly linked to attacks, while at the same time ensuring that we retain full respect for fundamental rights and freedom of speech. Second, the Commission stands ready to provide further support to Member States in their efforts to tackle this particular challenge. The threat posed by violent right-wing extremism has featured prominently in the discussions on the 2020 strategic orientations for a coordinated EU approach to the prevention of radicalisation. Amongst other things, this includes helping local and national governments to develop their action plans to prevent right-wing violent extremism, including through exit and de-radicalisation programmes. The Commission will also continue to support local authorities and cities in their efforts to tackle radicalisation. As a follow-up to the Cities Against Radicalisation conference, which we organised together with the European Committee of Regions earlier this year, the Commission is supporting a pilot group of interested cities to build a network focused on countering radicalisation in our communities. Third, and this has also been stressed by Member States and the Council, it's important to support our neighbours in their efforts to tackle violent extremism, particularly our partners in the Western Balkans. The Joint Action Plan on Counter-Terrorism for the Balkans region, signed a year ago, covers counter-terrorism policy as well as prevention of all forms of radicalisation and violent extremism. To implement the Joint Action Plan, the Commission is putting in place a set of tailor-made arrangements with each of the Western Balkan partner countries, including actions for effective prevention and countering of all forms of violent extremism. Chair, honourable members, we will continue to push forward our work in all of these areas, in close cooperation with our partners, including, of course, with our partners here in this House. Thank you very much.